We're live.
Okay.
Can you see us? By the way, folks, I'm talking to Marvin here on the phone.
Yeah, this is our part two to...
This is our, yes, part
Double
two
header.
of what we were doing. It's taken us 25 minutes to swap channels, right? First off, we had an internet failure, and then
Everything else that could go wrong did.
We had a human resources failure.
We are here. Hey, we got some people here. We got Tom, got Sheldon, got ProCharge Mopar. Glad to see y'all switch channels, so everybody's watching. So we're good, Marvin.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to find you here on my end. So.
All right.
Okay, there you go. I see.
Okay.
Spud forever.
Can I start now, boss?
Yes.
Right.
Go ahead. You can go to town.
Right. I'm going to put the phone here so that if you need to call, you need to say anything, it's there. Okay, folks.
Take 2 or 3 or 4.
Whatever, yes. I've been reviewing this book about 15, 20 pages at a time on the past 2 videos. That's 26 and 27. Right? I've now got up to about page 50.
What's the name of that book?
And it's called, what is it? It's Torque. That's the title. And I can't pronounce the guy's name. He's Norwegian. Right? But
you can turn it off. So
here's my thoughts on it so far. Right? As I get into this book, I find that it's got an ingredient that almost no other books have. And I'm reading it like, hey, I need to see if I can adopt a bit of this guy's style. Not only is he teaching you mechanics and machine shop work and the science behind it, but here's the thing. He's also writing down pretty concisely pages of his experience. Now, this is the one thing that's really hard to buy, is experience. This book is shaping up to be the exception. And I want to do one more take on it before I actually have a final say. But the thing is, it's looking like a very good book for first year students. Definitely for first year. And I think actually, by the time I get to the end, I may elevate that to second or third year college students. And Tom, could I send you this book and get you to look through it and give me your opinions? Right?
There's Tom right there. So he says we're on here. Look, we got people from Australia. Sean, he was on my live chat. So we got a lot of good people on here from all over the world. Yes, it is the Wizard.
Right. So anyway, let's look at some questions here. But
well, what was you wanting to talk about that magazine stuff? Let's get into that a little bit.
Right. Okay. Just give me an idea. How many of you think you'd like to be an automotive journalist? Right? Whilst I'm muttering away here. Now, you switched the seats on us to fool us. Yep. Did it work? It looks like a pretty glamorous job, being a motoring journalist. You get to do all these things, but you don't realize all the baggage it carries with it. You know, as a freelancer, you are prey for every editor to take advantage of, and they know they can do it, right? Only when you get to the stage where your articles make so much difference in circulation that they think they better not piss you off because you might start writing for somebody else. Well, for some reason or another, which is hard to explain, I got to that stage ages ago. I remember I got fired from one magazine, and that's okay. I had a contract with them not to write for anybody else, and within a week of them firing me, I had about 8 to 9 magazines that I was working for, each one ready to pay more money. And about, I guess it was about 9 months later, he called me up and he said, "Can I come over and see you and talk about you writing for us again?" And he came over and made a very generous offer, right? And I said, "Sure, I'll do it for that." But I only found out a couple of years later, when one of the people concerned called me, was that about 700 people from this one very large club in the north of England had sent a petition to the magazine saying they would cancel their subscriptions unless I started writing for them. Well, you can figure when something like that happens, for every one that writes in, there's 10 that feel the same way that didn't. That meant 7,000 people could terminate their subscription. Well, the magazine had about a circulation of about 50,000 copies. Well, to lose 7,000 of them, that's 14%. And I think this guy's boss said, "Go down and see him and be nice," and offer him a lot of money, right? But he didn't mention that. He just offered me a lot of money. So anyway, now the thing is it's difficult, but I was talking to Richard Holdener today, and he's a freelancer like me. And we were talking about the difficulty we can have being freelancers. And I find that he's had to go down exactly the same path as me, right? He said, "It's great talking to somebody who understands this."
I bet.
We've both been down that road before. Anyway, so now where was I going with this? Want to be a journalist, right? Yeah. It's not quite as easy. Pro-charge Mopar, Richard Holdener appears to work his butt off as a journalist. That guy is a workaholic.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. I think that I'd be pretty accurate if 6 days a week he works better than 15 hours a day.
Yeah, I would say that.
Right? If he takes a day off, I don't think it's very often, right? What you see on there for his shows, it's pretty much, I would say 98% his work. So he's a busy bee, that's for sure, right? And he deserves all the accolades we can hurl at him. So
yeah, I think it's pretty important to note that when he was doing all of his magazine writing back in the day, that he saved all of his data and is now using YouTube as a venue to showcase what he did. You know, I think that's pretty amazing foresight that he had.
yeah. Oh, he's nobody's fool, that's for
No.
sure. Yeah. Right. The High from Sweden bit, right? You want to buy a how to build horsepower. U.S. sellers do not ship to Sweden. Oh, I don't know.
That is a good question.
Yeah, I tell you what, you need to email Marvin, right? If you wanted to buy a selection of my books, he might do it, but it's going to be expensive, right? Books are heavy stuff to ship. But email Marvin. Go to David Vizard Performance Seminars and ask Marvin. He'll have you covered. Tom Wilburn. Tom asked Vizard how important being able to spell is. No, I mean, uh, Tom's showing off how badly he can spell there. Well, Tom, I got news for you. I've got you covered. Right. If a pencil hasn't got spell check on it, I'm really screwed. Look, I'll tell you what. This is my excuse. People who can only spell a word one way don't have much imagination.
Right.
Right? And believe it or not, I know that sounds like it's a jovial comment, but it's not far off the truth.
Right.
They found a lot of people who are very creative, right, don't spell very well.
This is the thing, and it is the truth.
With the demise of print, you either need to get in with Motor Trend or one of the other large multimedia core, or go to YouTube. Well, you know, those big deals there, I think they do most of their business on YouTube. But you know what? With the support that I've got and the people that I also support, we'll take on Motor Trend and some of the other ones, especially when we get to doing our dyno testing. Oh, by the way, the YouTube video I'm working on now is a pick apart engine, right?
Straight from the junkyard.
No. No, you pick the parts out of a catalog.
Oh, that kind
of How much horsepower can you build? Well, we topped 700. And the only grinding work done on that engine was matching the ports. Right, that's all. I did nothing other than match the ports. Right, all the parts were bought, was put together, and dyno tested. And it whooped that 700 horsepower mark by a bunch. And I'll tell you what, 611 foot-pounds of torque. And you can drive this sucker on the road. If you want to find out about it, watch my next video. Should be out by the end of next week.
Let's see here. It was
Ben Engineering. What was that one? On your zero loss exhaust termination box, is the volume 8 times CID or 8? It's 8 times whatever one cylinder is, right? Because you might have it on a single cylinder engine, in which case, no, wait a minute, that's for a V8. Sorry, it's, yeah, brain fade, but at my age, I've got a good excuse.
That's exactly right.
Right? I am so old, I can't remember how old I am.
Well, hello.
I deny working on chariots. Oh, this is my better half coming in.
Right here.
Hello, my dear.
Hello, sir.
Right.
It's okay. Good evening.
Push the button on the coffee machine, it'll make you coffee.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go find another question. This is a good one. Steve Normanton. How lean can you run it
Well,
into?
you know, there's no simple
sure.
answer to that, is there?
No.
I'm afraid that is at least an SAE paper, but let me give you some hints here, right? This business about, well, you run it lean, it runs hot. Well, it does initially, it runs hot. But as the amount of fuel that you're using and you lean it off gets less and less, the ratio of the fuel burning to the mass of air it has to heat up causes the temperature to drop, right? Now, so it doesn't go on heating up forever. If you can run very lean mixtures and ignite them okay, you can get to the stage where you're almost running a diesel cycle.
Right.
Right? Now, way back when, that'd be 1974, I headed up a team which we developed a Mini Cooper engine, and it was for a round America economy drive. Now, we drove this through all kinds of weather at normal speeds, not 30 miles an hour. It takes forever to drive around America at 30 miles an hour. So we typically, and this is when the 55 limit was on.
Yeah.
So we typically drove at the speed of the rest of the traffic, which is 55 to 65, sometimes as high as 70. When we got back to New York, after driving it through feet of snow, bashing snow, we went 200 miles in second and third gear, right? Motor Trend tested it off-road and on the track to check its acceleration. Plus, they drove it for 60 miles with the front tires flat. All of this went into the mileage, right? We averaged 49.98 to the gallon. 1 gallon less fuel, and we'd have done 50 to the gallon under normal conditions, right?
Yeah.
Now, my point is this: we did it before Honda, with an engine which was far less sophisticated
Right.
than anything Honda produces. Now, where was I? Oh yes, at cruise speed, we were running a fuel-air ratio of 22 to 1. When I put the heat tester, the thermometer, on the exhaust pipe, right, the exhaust pipes are only about 450 degrees.
Yeah.
Right. Now,
People get really taken on that number, but if you're at part throttle and you're not seeing a lot of load on the engine, you can run a really, really lean mixture as long as you have the ignition to light it off.
yeah, here's the two things you have. You've got to have good atomization, right, to the point where most of it goes into the engine as a vapor, right? You need manifold heat and a rough manifold for that. So we found that exhaust temperature is too much on a mini engine, and we found a water heated manifold. Well, we ran the temperature up and down on that, and we found that with the water heated manifold coming off the radiator, it was just right. Also, we used the ports in the mini heads rough, mostly as cast, or even with a square grinding wheel, just roughing them up. As soon as we polished those ports, mileage went away.
Yeah, like even on my truck, with the 393 that I had,
Yep.
I was able to get it upwards of over 15 to 1. But in doing that, you have to have your accelerator circuit pump perfectly dialed in, because as soon as you tap into the throttle, it has to overcome that mass lean spike. And so everything has to be in check, but you can actually go really lean in part throttle.
Our particular economy engine, used a 1.5 inch SU carburetor. And the beauty about these
I'm go get me some
carburetors is they have incredible fuel atomization, right? You get them all set up right, and that fuel comes off the jet and needle assembly as a fog. I've taken flash photographs, which that's a 0.002 of a second, and the droplets are incredibly small, right? Take a flash photograph down a Holly, especially a straight booster one, while it's at wide open throttle, and you can actually see droplets of fuel that are pretty big. Okay, Andy 347495. $5, thank you, Andy. On our speak, but hang on, Tom, I'll get to you in a moment. Our t-shirt bone, we would coat the piston with the ceramic so we could run really lean. The cylinders were coated in naked.
Genius too. That's interesting.
Is that the two as well, or is it meant to be TWO? Never mind.
It doesn't matter.
Right. Yes. We didn't put ceramic on our pistons, right? Because they were running so lean, the pistons didn't get hot.
They get hot. So you
Right.
wouldn't see any benefit.
No. No, well, actually,
could-
when we did this, ceramic coatings were a little unstable.
Yeah.
We didn't need grinding grit going around our engine when we've crossed the Atlantic and we're somewhere out in the desert in America. Right. Tom, where were you? Where's Tom's deal? He asked a question.
Let me go find Tom's question.
There. Right. Speaking of port finish, did you ever test ports with smooth and rough finishes or golf?
Golf ball.
Yes. Yeah. Didn't I say this? We tested ports that were cast, tested ports that were roughed up and cast, and we polished them. And as far as economy is concerned and lean burn, the rough ports won hands down.
Yeah.
Golf ball finishes in fallout areas where we didn't have any, right? We heated up fuel and sucked it through at temperatures and pressures a la running engine. It literally went in either as fuel at less than 5 microns or a vapor, right? There was no fallout. That's where the heat of the manifold comes in. Another Australian tuning.
All right. Look at this right here. What do you think about a 472-inch engine making 760 foot-pounds?
Quick, calculator. What was the compression? Nope. What compression did we have?
Maybe I'll put it in there eventually.
I will run a quick number on that. Okay, folks, just bear with me a moment. 473, we'll say. Clear. It was 760. 760. It sounds almost unbelievable. Divide by 472 equals 1.610. That is only a shade under what a pro stock motor makes, right? We've been up to that kind of foot-pounds on a 500-inch engine, but that's when it's 16-to-1 compression. Let me give you an idea of where I'm at with a more normal engine, right?
He said the compression was 11.82.
Ooh. The Black Mac. Was the dyno reading right? Let's work out my cup car motor, right? Because that is, I can compare that with the cup car engines of the era. Typically, a good cup car, I'm going to sneeze in a minute, a good cup car around 2004, right, would be around about 520 foot-pounds. My W2 engine in there using most of the parts, W9, is it?
Yeah.
Is it grown up?
It's grown up.
Okay. The deal would be, that one made 542 foot-pounds. 542.
355.
Divide by 355 equals, oops, 542 divide by 355 equals, that's 1.526 foot-pounds per cube, right? So it's a little less than your guy's making, right? But that's on a 12-to-1 engine, right? And it's also built to go at least on 24-hour races, right? Is this other one a drag race engine?
Look at what Marvin put on there. I'm sure I could if it had a lot of boost on it.
there's a limit
Yeah, there is a limit.
to how much torque you can make, and it's limited on a normally aspirated engine, and it's limited by the compression of the engine. We're assuming that it can breathe. The compression of the engine and the friction within the engine, right? That's the two primary things. Secondly, this brings me. Actually, thirdly, the other thing is combustion efficiency.
That's right.
And we glibly talk about combustion efficiency, but actually it's not. It's combustion effectiveness. Not quite the same thing. Now, let me make a point here. Combustion efficiency is not necessarily something that is associated with a high-tech cylinder head. For instance, the mini engine that I was talking about earlier on has a combustion efficiency that's actually as good, if not slightly better, than the old DFV Cosworth Formula One engine, right? Now, you know that Cosworth engine's a far more sophisticated engine. It's all down to how you burn that fuel, right? And what you do about the friction. Well, two engines come to mind here. A mini engine and a big block engine. If you get everything right on your big block Chevy, right, you can have a combustion efficiency which rivals a Cosworth DFV, right? And that number is 5 pounds of air per horsepower per hour. If you can get under that figure, you're in F1 territory.
Right.
Now, getting on a big block Chevy is not a question of just throwing a bunch of parts together. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. But if you get that number, you'll find that your engine's making a lot of torque. Now, Black Mac.
Yeah, where's that?
Where is it?
He's got one here. He
Very
also
high, low intensity cam, right? But what was the compression again? 11.8 to 1. Well, I have heard the Black Mac.
Yeah.
Right? I have heard of engines making 1.6 foot-pounds per cube with 12 to 1 compressions, right? So your number's not impossible.
Yeah. Got
It's
a donation.
just
Ernesto sent Mexican money. Right now.
yeah, right.
That
Well,
is
129 is a significant number,
It might be.
right? It can't be his age, right?
No. John Elliott asked, got a good Cleveland block and want to run a setup like Andy has with dual carbs and Ford assembly. Should I go with 408 or 368? You want to answer that? It really depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, you can't beat cubic inches.
No. Cubic inches is foot-pounds.
That's right.
Right? Now, there's certain combinations get better foot-pounds per cube than others, right? And it's hard to say what they're going to be happy with. My experience with more conventional 408 Fords, I don't know what heads are going on here, but I've tried quite a few different cylinder heads on there, and I'm talking about ones I already knew were good. For instance, I did a AFR combination that went to 1.47 foot-pounds from a 10.6 to 1 compression.
That's pretty healthy.
Right, and we couldn't get that foot-pounds per cube on a smaller engine. Now, we get the same kind of thing happen when building a 383 Chevy.
Right.
The bore-stroke ratio of a 383 compared with a 350 produces more foot-pounds than the increase in displacement. In other words, I think I said this before, it's like an 8% increase in displacement, and you get a 12% increase in foot-pounds, right? And that actually goes on until you get to about 400 cubic inches,
Yeah.
right? And that's with a 403 or a 406 bore.
You know, the thing about it is, Greg Brown told me that when he won the race engine challenge,
Yep.
he said it's not a luck of chance or anything like that most of the engines that win those competitions are around that 400 cubic inch limit. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
There's something magical about when you get...
Well, a lot of it is to do with the fact that the heads that are available are a good choice to make good foot-pounds whilst that engine is in that range.
And they're also doing those competitions within a certain RPM
Yes,
limit.
yes. I always wanted the RPM limit to be much lower, right? And the reason for that was many years ago I did an engine for Chrysler, and the power band was from 400 RPM to 8,000.
Yeah.
You could put it in high gear, 400 RPM. It's only 4-cylinder engine, and it'd pull away like a steam engine. My wife, my then wife, said she didn't need to use anything but third gear.
She
could
pull
do
off.
100. She wouldn't go that fast, but
Yeah.
the car would go 105 in third gear. But it'd also go from a standing start and do a pretty normal start.
Yeah.
You'd have the clutch in by the time it got to 500 RPM.
So,
That's it.
Andy, thank you for the $20. He's wanting to know if you've done anything with the peanut port big
Yes.
block Chevy heads. Air velocity advantage over the 780.
You know what? I would like to have explored the peanut ports more aggressively, but you know, as a one-man show, there's a limit to my time.
There's only so much time in the day.
Yeah. Now, Andy, let me tell you something here that I did find out on the limited work I did on those peanut ports. They're underrated.
You know, Richard Holdner just put up a video where he produced, they got over 500 horsepower from a peanut port head, and it just had a cleaned up valve job and, you know, nothing bad. I mean, most people think the peanut ports are just junk, but
No.
you can do work on them to get power.
If you know what you're doing, I am damn sure that they can make that 1.4 foot-pounds per cube, so long as you don't try to turn a million RPM with them, right? I wouldn't say I like the head as it comes from the factory, but there's metal there where
To work with.
Yes, you can work with them. If a head's got too big a port, like those rectangular ports,
Yeah.
that drives me nuts. Right, the only way to port those is to fill in the ports.
So, let's see here.
Okay, wait. Naked shorts. Topic. Quench, the ever-deepening rabbit hole. Flat tops out of the box sloping towards the cylinder wall on the Lifter Valley Quench side. Disaster or no? I'm not sure if I quite understand it. Quench, the ever-deepening rabbit hole.
So you're talking about the crown of the piston
The box sloping towards the cylinder wall.
on the Lifter Valley.
Um,
Meaning that if
that's okay. That's
Wrong.
I see the here. That's what he's got,
Mhm.
and he's asking if that's a disaster or normal. Look, I don't know how much they're leaning, so I really can't comment. But a 5,000th lean is not uncommon, right? Especially if you've got like a 5,000th piston clearance, they'll rock that much.
Yeah.
I don't. It's not a disaster. It's not tidy though. But if that's the only problem your engine's got, you're going to do all right. I bet you if we really delve into it, it's got at least a dozen other things which are going to hold it up way more than what you're obviously concerned about here.
You know, one of the things that I didn't even talk about on any of my videos on mixed up bosses, the quench of that chamber, of how it had like these, the chamber is softened, which means it's got like quench pads, but it's angled. So when we cleared the deck of the block, we got a positive deck height with the piston coming out. So therefore I matched the piston crown to replicate that same angle of the head.
So you've got angled quench now.
Angled quench, pushing it towards the
I
combustion.
like angled quench.
And that's something I didn't talk about. That's just one of the secrets I put into it.
Guys, I'm doing a video, right? Because a lot of you are obviously want to be talking about this. I'm in the process of doing a video. It's called, the title of it is my mind's gone blank.
Hey,
It's Harvey Crane, Combustion Dynamics, and Massive Misunderstanding.
that'll be good.
Right. I'm going to, you know, I went through a couple of weeks ago and I was looking at channels where professionals, right? And I'm talking about guys companies that have won pro stock rounds. And they're talking about detonation. I realize they have no idea what they're talking
That's
about.
right.
Right? So I thought, well, obviously, this is something to
Explore and talk about.
Now then, let's get back to that 1,200 foot-pounds at how many pounds of boost?
Where?
Right?
That was way ago.
Yeah, wherever it is.
Hey, we got Dallas on here. Hey, HRA.
Just a minute.
Hey, look, I represent tonight. I've got the shirt on. Just so you know, Dallas.
Where is it?
I think it's long gone. Okay, so EEC says make 1,200 pounds on 20 psi, 375 small block Ford.
Right. Now let me see. We made about 1,400 horsepower on 120 inches. The torque was, we were pretty close to 1,000 foot-pounds on our 2-liter engine, right? I know when we got to the track it annihilated everybody. I'm talking about professionals now, not weekend racers, guys who do it for a living. Basically, we made the next fastest car look like it was parked. So forget the dyno numbers, meaningless. Did it win? My God, did it win. No one could believe that a guy that pulled his car on a trailer with a 1,500 truck, parked in amidst all the 18-wheelers, could have gone that fast.
Yeah.
They thought it was a joke when he first got there, but the joke was on them.
So we got a good question here. Ernesto sent us some more money, $499 Mexican. What to use as a filler for head runners?
Quick, what's the stuff I
Good.
got up there?
The
There's
good
Goodson stuff.
I'll find it.
And we've got some, I've forgotten what it is now. In 2 tubes in the box over there, we've got 2 things that work. 2 things that work here.
I don't know where it's at.
Try the cupboard just here,
Oh yeah.
right? This first one that I'm going to show you from Goodson is
Not in there.
you can use it en masse, right? I've used it. Well, go to the Goodson website.
Yeah, I can't find it.
You get it in a pack, 2 cans like this, and you can do a fair bit of real filling with it.
That's what I'm using on my Cleveland
And
tunnel
the
wrap.
other one is the black stuff and white stuff that you mix over there quick.
Oh well,
I
I don't know where it's at.
Yeah, black stuff and white stuff. That's what, no,
Yeah,
in the drawer here, right where it says adhesives and thread lock. Didn't say that on the we're right by the Craftsman badge.
Oh yeah.
Quick, what's it called?
Oh, you're talking about JB Weld?
JB Weld. That's it. Right, I could not get there from here. JB Weld is very good to use if you're using a small amount and
Right.
it's required to stick. If you get in that port with a grinder and a rough wheel, rough up the port, clean it off with paint thinner, make sure it's totally grease free,
There it is.
right?
That's exactly what we use.
PRK 99 intake port
Yes.
and shape. Is that it?
Yes, that is the
Right. Thank
Part
you,
number.
Manitou Black. Right? Yes, those are the two. Now, when I do ports with the goods and stuff, anytime I can, I drill holes in the port specifically for the filler to grab hold of. It's not that the filler might fail, it's that I might have forgotten to wipe it off properly. I haven't yet, but you know, it's safe.
It's
Better be safe than sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
I do not need one of my engines ingesting a chunk of filler.
Not good.
Although I've seen it happen on other people's engines, and I was amazed. Other than a slightly bent valve,
Right.
I could not believe a piece of filler, probably 3/4 of an inch by an inch,
Made it through.
made it through the exhaust valve.
Yeah.
Right? It bent the intake valve. The exhaust valve looked perfect. And I thought, what the hell did that happen?
I don't know. I've seen crazy things like that too. Nick Parler wants to know, what bearing clearances do you recommend for a Windsor street strip looking to turn at 7,000? Thanks, and I love videos.
2 to 2.5 on the rod
Rods.
bearings, and 2.5 to 3 on the main.
I always use the rule of thumb of 1/1000th of clearance per inch. That's always been my go-to.
That is a very good way to look at it, right? Now, of course, the closer you can run the bearings, the thinner oil you can run.
Right.
On my car, I've got 1/1000ths on the mains and the big ends, and I before I rebuilt it for long distance races, that motor would turn 9,800 RPM, and when I tore the engine down and it had done at least 500 miles, the crank was unmarked,
Right.
and I could have used the bearings again. I'm using 0 grade oil. I've put it back with the same clearances, and you know, I'm using oil that when it's warmed up, it's like kerosene.
So, Bo Harris, what's the shortest you would cut down the guide boss in the port before you worry about the valve instability and a cast head?
Right, well, I think here, Bo, we can steer you in the right direction. Take a look at the exhaust ports that I do in both the videos on Vortec exhaust ports and the video on the 706 LS head. Now, I do need to make a point here. When you're cutting down guides, you need to make sure that when you have the valve seats cut, you need to have the end of the guide very close to horizontal, because if it's like this and you don't even it up, so it's like when the pilot guide's pushed in, it will lean. When I cut the seat, it will lean towards the high side of the guide will be the high side of the seat.
You won't be concentric.
Exactly. You could, and it has, sometimes it can put your seat out by as much as 4 or 5 thousandths. So when you cut the guide, make sure that you just clearance the first bit of the guide so that the pilot sees a flat hole, but you can put it pretty steep. Now, I have to tell you this, cutting the guide on the exhaust, right, which is usually the one that's of most concern, the valve will heat up more, but you will not get any more flow until you use very high lift. So
Right.
I wouldn't cut it down too much. I would focus on giving room for the exhaust gas to go around each side of the guide.
So RK, the zero loss exhaust, beneficial for part throttle response or torque on a street engine, or is it only wide open throttle? Talking about your video that you did on the zero loss.
The engine, the zero loss exhaust system is invisible to the engine.
That's right.
Whatever it did with the no exhaust system, that's what it does now. Part throttle, accelerating, whatever. As
matter.
far as the engine's concerned,
It doesn't
that
realize it's there.
exhaust doesn't exist.
Look who dropped in. Uncle Tony dropped in to say hello.
Hey,
What's up, Tony?
Tony, I don't think you're old enough to be my uncle. Not because I could be your grandfather.
Okay, this is Dallas Brown of the AHRA. Decrease in valve stem diameter over the years due to valve train mass or an increase in airflow, 3/8 to 7 millimeter.
That's a good question.
I would say it would be both.
Here's the thing. I'm always having a lot of conflict about seat angles and why a 50 and a 55 degree seat may or may not be better. And they all say, well, it's slightly better flow. You know what? I think half of the game of a steeper angle is because it seals better.
That's right.
Right? I did some experiments once several times, where we found a valve was leaking, right? Almost fortuitously. And we reshaped the valve so that the seat would conform even if it was slightly off.
Yeah.
And guess what? Although the seat flowed less, we made more horsepower.
You know, thing about it is too, I think when you consider the weight of a 3/8 stem valve and you compare, say, a 7 millimeter or 8 millimeter, that's a lot of mass difference.
Yeah.
Requiring you to run a lesser spring to control it. This just a win all the way around, really.
Now, you started a chain of events here. One of the things a thinner stem will do, the ability for it to flow more is grossly overrated.
That's right. You're not getting much on that.
What happens is, any dyno test which shows a power increase, very minute amount may be due to airflow. But being as the stem is more flexible this way, right, especially on a 50 or 55 degree seat, it's able to seal much better.
Yeah.
Right? Now, let me tell you there's ways around that. Because if you can use a 45 degree seat or a lesser, then the seat needs some aid in slipping down, the valve needs some aid in slipping down the seat. Well, there's a technique that we use to polish them, and we polish it going up and down, not round and round, right? We've got this kind of buffer which vibrates, and it will polish the finish on the seats down it instead of around it. And we found that that will seat the valve much better. Plus, there is a coating that you can get from Techline that you paint on the seat, and it's a lubricant, right? And it causes the valve to slide down the seat much better. And we found that just painting the seats, right? Run the engine, take it apart. No, sorry. Paint the seats. Run the engine. Take the head off. Finish the valves conventionally and the seats in the head. Put it back together. Less horsepower, right? I'm trying to remember what the difference was. We were probably testing with around 500 horsepower in a small block Chevy.
Yeah.
And I seem to remember that the coating was worth about 8 horsepower.
This one, the valve's actually sealing up.
Yes.
Which you take for granted, you know.
Yeah. Now, you might say, well, didn't you notice it backfire? No, it's all happening so fast.
Yeah, you're talking milliseconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a wonder we ever get time to fill a cylinder.
Anthony
you realize
Thomas.
it at what is it, 8,000 RPM, 1/12,000th of a second to fill a cylinder.
That's crazy.
Right.
So Anthony Thomas gave you $15 asking this question. Is Ultra Cylinder Heads in Florida the only company that does the polyquad cylinder head in America? Tell them about the polyquad. That's yours.
I'm not Ultra Cylinder Heads now. Guys, I've got memory problems due to my brain surgery, but to be honest, Ultra Cylinder Head sounds familiar, but I can't remember if I gave them permission to do them or not. Right? So, no, there's a couple of other companies that I said, hey guys, go ahead and do it. They're not doing enough cylinder heads for me to make any money on. Right? I needed Ford Motor Company to pick this up.
Right.
They could have dropped their... It'll do the same thing as their variable cam timing.
Is that patent still active?
No, it's not. Now it's run out. But a lot of people need help with it. So if they wanted to get help,
Yeah.
I've got more experience on it than anyone on the face of the planet.
Right.
Right. Our turbo motor that wiped the board of everyone, that was polyquad. Right. The head, compared with a well-prepped, professionally prepped 4-valve head versus a polyquad head on that engine was 100 foot-pounds and 110 horsepower with 5 pounds less boost.
Yeah.
Right.
So John Wilborn says Tony is 59 years old, 0.24.
Wow. I wasn't expecting an answer that accurate. Yes. He's old enough to be, I could call him son.
Yeah. So Andy gave $5 here. What kind of gains is there in increasing the percentage of flow between the intake and exhaust and increasing the flow in just the exhaust?
God,
That's a very convoluted question right there.
They're asking some pretty awesome questions.
Yeah. But that's pretty good.
Guys, I'm feeling guilty. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, this is the stuff he gets off on right here. He loves this type
You
of
guys are
question.
speaking my language. Yeah, Andy, this is a very complex subject.
Yeah, you could talk about that. You could do a whole class on just this.
Yeah, I've just done some cylinder heads, 186 head castings from way back. Going to be a
Double humps.
Double hump castings, right? Now, way back when, this would be about 1970-ish, right? When they were the head to use on race engines, to get the flow out of them, they were deshrouded so much that you're lucky if the head didn't crack during the race.
Yeah.
Right? And if you didn't have a very extensive cooling system, it would overheat.
Right.
So you get artificial water injection, right? They would crack from the seat into the about 45-degree angle into the water jacket. Now, this was good business for the guys who modified the heads. Anyway, the thing was, is I got involved with McKeck Racing. I think I told this story.
Yeah.
And they wanted a pair of heads done in a rush, and it couldn't get them from America. They gave me the heads that cracked. I found heads in a wrecking yard by an American airbase where had been involved in accidents and things like this, and I found a set of heads suitable for me to modify. I spent a week on the flow bench, no, maybe 2 weeks on the flow bench, and a week actually grinding the real thing. And I got more flow from smaller ports, and to stop it, or rather to cut down the frequency of head changes, I used a 194 intake instead of a 202, which naturally caused less shrouding. Now, I also used a slightly bigger exhaust. I think it was like a 165 rather than a 1.6. And the ratio here was governed not so much by what was best for the job, but by what was the most reliable for the job. Well, as it happened, my 194 valve actually flowed more than those other guys' 202 valves, because the smaller valve was less shrouded and mine was more scientifically deshrouded. So, although there's optimum figures for this flow ratio, there are also good reasons for not using that, and I've just stated one there. But typically, if you don't have my flow test program, then it's difficult to say what you have. Yeah. Now, my flow test program computes what you need and what you have.
So Andy is saying here, by increasing the flow and just the exhaust, that's what he was meaning.
Yes, that's what I've done with these heads here, right? And back to my economy engine.
Yeah.
They used a very low exhaust port. I worked the jabers out of those exhaust ports until they flowed like a toilet, and the back pressure was the flow rate was very high. I was able to use a cam with shorter exhaust timing than intake, right? By the way, the cam only had 5 degrees of overlap, so it may as well not have had any.
So Tony is saying that he would guess that exhaust flow is about twice as important as the intake, and that would vary with LSA. You know, the exhaust flow, in my opinion, has a lot to do with how the port gets scavenged and how you bring in the intake charge. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, thank you.
Go right ahead. I gave you a segue. How's that? You like that word, segue?
I thought it was a one-wheeled scooter.
Oh, yeah. So which is more
okay, important? Tony, the exhaust flow, boy, you know how to ask questions, don't you? Yes, you're right in the context that we're talking here. It's twice as important as the intake, so long as the intake's not suffering. Right? Here's the deal. A current race engine lives on its exhaust performance. Let me give you a clue here. The energy content that's available on a typical V8 when the exhaust valve opens and dumps all that pressure, right? What we're trying to do is use that pressure to create a wave and try and get some of the energy back from it. Well, typically, the amount of pressure that you're dumping from, say, a 300-inch engine is about 60 horsepower.
It's a lot.
That you can't access unless you use it to scavenge the intake. Well, we are using that 60 horsepower to drive a gas supercharger, right, which is sucking the charge in, and that's how we're getting these 115% VEs. Oh, by the way, if you've got those old fans like on a Superflow, and they're telling you you've got 115% V, it's probably wrong, right? We've made comparisons between different deals. And the deal is the superflow one's very accurate, or can be, in steady state. But if you're accelerating, right, or at low RPM, it skews the readings.
Yeah.
Right. Mostly what we use now is a
Brain fade.
brain fade.
You're talking about hats.
Yeah.
Come back to
I'll
it.
remember it. I'll remember it next week. But okay, Tony, did I answer your question there? And would the value vary with low center line? Everything varies with everything, right?
I got a lot of good questions. Let's see
Yeah.
here. We'll go to this first. I'm thinking the more compression, the less
I want
exhaust.
to do the one from Performance Engines as well.
Yeah, we'll go back to that.
We'll go back to that one. I'm thinking the more the compression, the less exhaust must be optimized at any expense of the intake because of the. John, you're exactly
He
right.
paid attention, didn't
This proves to me that you were
he?
the
He
great
paid attention.
student I thought you were when you came to my class, right? Yes. The higher the compression is,
More the decay rate.
the more the pressure decays before the valve opens. So you can use, so the flow of the exhaust port becomes less important. Now, if you've got a good exhaust port and it has more than enough flow, you can make that valve smaller and make the intake bigger, because getting it out is not the issue. It's getting that damned air in. It's not till we get to turbo motors and nitrous motors
Right.
and the like that getting the gases out become
Become a
a
problem.
real issue. Yes.
Performance engines.
Sniper on a big block has a 4.0 and only a 3.9 stroke 9,000. Will it work, or do I have to get?
Talking about intake.
Yeah. Let me see quick. How many cubes is that? That's going to be about
Where's my phone?
450 cubes, isn't it? I'm guessing. I would say
Probably about 470.
470.
I'm guessing.
I would say your problem here is you're on the cusp of the Sniper Junior at its top end capability and the bottom end of what the Sniper will do, right? My suggestion here is you might want to try porting a Sniper Junior, right?
Man, it's only 437 inches.
Yeah.
I was way off.
9,000 RPM. 437 inches. If it's got good heads on there, that thing should clear 900 horsepower,
Yeah.
right?
So,
Does that answer the question?
yeah.
Port a Sniper Junior, right? And the other thing is, remember the air, it moves mostly in the, you'll have to look at one of my videos, right? I can't think which one. But the port needs to be shaped like half of a house roof.
Yeah. Got an angled
angle-
roof.
And that's 50 horsepower right there. The manifold has to blend into that shape from 2 or 3 inches away, right? Yeah, I did an engine for a guy in Trinidad, Tobago. I guess it'd be about 18 months ago now. And the intake manifold and port were a weird shape. and the car went as fast or even slightly faster without the 125 nitrous shot that he'd been using.
Right.
Right, so we reckon it's a 500-inch motor. We reckon that, and it's got to be reliable, because you know, if you live down in the Caribbean, you can't just pick up a phone and order.
No.
It's got to go through customs and all that.
Right.
Right. Which phone's that?
It's Marvin calling.
It's Marvin. Right. Hang on a minute, folks. Yes, Marvin.
So Tony, a well scavenging high velocity exhaust makes up. It can. But it can't.
Yeah,
it
okay.
can't
I'll do
overcome
that
all of the
right away.
deficiencies. But if you have a marginal intake set
Yeah,
up,
I've
you
got the volume
can
down.
make up for quite a bit of that.
Oh.
Let's see.
Right. You want to hear you. Right. We can do that.
Oh, we're going to be on speaker.
Right. This is Marvin.
Marvin's on phone.
Can you hear?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hello. Can you hear me on the computer?
Okay. What is it, Marvin?
Okay. I just wanted to plug the seminars and remind everybody we've got I think 4 spots left on the September 8th, 9th, and 10th How to Build Forest Fire seminar. I just put a link down below the screen that if anybody wants to click on it, check it out. There's upcoming seminars. And also put a link in the chat there too. So we also have a porting workshop, a 10-day porting workshop coming up in October 8th through 8th.
That sounds like it.
Yeah, it does.
But anyway, just everybody check that out. I mean, there's nothing, you ain't gonna learn more from anybody. I don't care if it's Darren Morgan or whoever than you will from coming to one of the seminars. I've been doing this for how many years now, Dave? Every time still I come, probably hundreds of them. Every time I come, they
Learn
don't.
them.
I'll learn new that I hadn't heard before.
Yeah.
Marvin, that must be more than 5 years now.
It's been a long time, yeah.
Yes, it must be, because Casey, right?
Right.
So it's got to be more like 6.5 years.
Well, I'm estimating hundreds. I may be exaggerating, but it seems like hundreds because, you know, it's just we're best friends, but it's still just educational experience.
Well,
yeah.
Marvin, don't forget we talk a lot of tech when you come down, and it's not a video, not
That's
a
right.
seminar, right? And then Andy comes over, and what do we talk about? Race cars.
That's right.
And very rarely we actually talk about girls as well.
I'm 57 years old, and I think you got 50 years more experience than I do that you share with me.
Oh yeah, he's forgotten more than I'll ever know, probably.
And your experience is quality experience. It's not like mine and Andy's experience.
That's
You know,
right.
Around, Smoky Unic, Don Gartless, all the big wheels here. I mean, not to mention Harvey Crane and all the. I just can't even begin to name all the people that.
Yeah.
That,
You know,
we go to PRI, and I'm just amazed at
All the people.
the big timers that walk up. Hey, Dave, what's going on? I
Yeah.
haven't seen you in a few years.
well, talking about that, one of the, what did I say, when you use something nice about something, I've forgotten what that word is, compliments,
Yeah.
right? That Smoky Unic gave me, and I was deeply moved by it, right? Since Smokey's been one of my idols since, I don't know, a long time. And by the way, I'm exactly 20 years younger than Smokey. His birthday's on the same as mine. But
Yeah.
he said to me, he said, you know, David, he said, you're just like me, except you have a university degree.
Right.
Right? And I thought, wow.
That's pretty powerful stuff.
You know what? I was stuck for words after he said that. And, you know, guys, how often am I stuck for words,
Right.
right? I was dumbfounded. but I've remembered that. I treasure that compliment because, you know, I had a lot of admiration for Smokey, and even after he passed away, things I learned about him gave me even more respect for the guy, and I never did satisfy my
Yeah.
need to spend time with him. So I feel like cheated is probably
Right.
the best word. But it's my own fault, right? I had the opportunity and I didn't take it.
Well,
Let me remind you of something you said to me about Smokey. You said you wish you knew the historical significance of Smokey back in the early 70s when you were spending time in his garage. You would spend so much more time there
yeah.
if you could have saw 20 years into the future.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway,
But
We're going to get back to it.
I'll get off here and let you all go, let you answer a few more questions. I know you've been on there over
Yeah.
an hour.
Yeah.
we're having a good time.
Yeah,
We
it's
can
a good
wait
time.
until they run out of steam, right?
Yeah.
If Uncle Tony's still in there, hey there, I'm glad you checked in with us, and I look forward to seeing you check in more. And hopefully, I get to spend some time with you one day, Uncle Tony. So
Yeah.
y'all be good, and I'm gonna sign off.
All right. We'll see.
Alrighty, cheers.
Cheers.
Let's try to get caught up real quick. Evan, saw a video about Greg Brown's Hammerhead Engine Masters winning combo. Yes, those heads are really impressive. And like I said, he won the Race Engine Challenge with that deal. And I think he made, with his 393 combination, his max power was like 775 if I remember correct. So yeah, he put together a pretty awesome combination for that challenge. Michael Gray sends you $5. Wanting to know about GT40P heads.
Now, okay. Andy, what does the P stand for?
Well, you got two different versions. The GT40.
You got an iron head.
Yeah, this iron head. You got a regular GT40, then you got the P, which is the later version. It's just pretty much a improved combustion chamber in the later one.
I haven't ported any of those heads for gotta be 2 years now.
Yeah.
Right. Now
I'm kind of curious as to what kind of cam or how
Yeah.
big of a cam you're going to run, because you know, like you've already stated, 450 lift. It's all seat. So you can elaborate on
Michael,
it.
I can see where you're going with this. The answer's no. Right. From a 160cc port, you should be able to get this thing to flow up to 650.
Right.
Right.
The port
And
size itself is
after
not a
it
big deal.
passes the 0.25D, if it drops off, that's a sure sign. If it continues to drop, that's a sure sign that you are not getting the flow to window over to the center of the cylinder. So the first thing you should do is look at the bias of where the air is in the port from about 3 inches, 2 inches maybe, down past that valve. It's got to be going mainly on the cylinder wall side, so that it can
Turn
ramp round like this. So if you've got a vein in that port and it's straight, right, the air's
Angle.
not going that way, it's going this way. So you should turn it.
Directing it
other
towards
thing
the center of the cylinder.
is the valve guide approach to it needs to be pointed the opposite way, and you think, well, that's got to be the wrong way, it's going to direct the air into the wall. Well, no, it scoops up the air and causes it to go around like that and window better out of the port. So you need to come to one of my porting schools.
Yeah. Bo Harris sends another $5. Want to thank you for all the great information. Learned a lot from your videos in a month than all others combined.
Well, thank you, Bo. Right.
Okay, this is a good. What's that? I've done lost it. Tony checked out. So, good night, Tony.
This is going by so damn fast it looks like a movie. Michael J. Morrison.
$20. Went a twin turbo Boss 302 in 1990. Bin exhaust valves. Just tell me about pressurization. So he called and talked to you about this apparently years ago. Just want to thank you. I never had a chance until now.
Right. Okay. You're very welcome. I read that and I thought, it sounds familiar. Right. This is even after my brain surgery. So my conversation with that guy it's been in my mind all the time. So
right.
It must have been something about his conversation that was above and beyond normal.
Right.
Right. So whatever it was, Michael, you're very welcome. So I hope whatever I told you fixed the problem.
Okay, Sheldon says, talking about mirror polishing his GT40s. You're talking about the combustion chamber in a notable way to be worth it. How much does it do to smooth the flame front?
Flame fronts are a nightmare.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure it does. I've seen engines which had quartz cylinders, so you could see in there and film the combustion. And a rough combustion surface definitely causes the layer of unburned gases prior to the main flame front getting there. What will happen is they will burn, they'll get close to it, and then they'll stop burning, and then as the pressure drops, this band of gases, ignitable gases, expands, and then it burns, right? And that is much more prevalent with a cast finish than it is with a smooth finish. And
Right.
It's all to do with surface area. But, now here's the other thing, right? You're going to save some heat going through the cylinder head. And the cooling system won't be loaded as much because you've just, believe it or not, by polishing that surface, from a cast finish to a polish finish, you could cut the surface area by as much as 50%.
Yeah, that's
Right.
a big difference.
Yeah.
Which will make a big difference as far as
Little
heat.
mountains up there, you know.
Take up a lot of area.
Yep.
Okay. Question in a 2-block. Tumble and 4V head or Hemi versus swirl in an inline. There's no replacement for swirl, is there?
Okay, you're going to have to take some, make some judgments yourself. But tumble gets suppressed as the piston comes up the bore. By the time you get to about 10.5, 11 to 1, there's virtually no tumble there at all.
Right.
Now then, swirl, on the other hand, because of the conservation of angular momentum, in the right combustion chamber, or in a good combustion chamber, the swirl velocity increases as the piston up the bore. Now the problem is, most 4V heads have the spark plug in the middle. And they say, well, centrally located spark plug there. That's the worst place to put a spark plug. Although it seems like it shouldn't be, right? The position of a spark plug on a small block Chevy or a Mini is better than most 4-valve heads with it in the middle. Now, here's the deal. Let's throw in the Hemi here, right? The Chrysler Hemi with the twin spark plugs, that works very nicely, right? Their combustion process is, let's put it this way, they could compete with anybody out there with their combustion process. Right? Now, I don't know if that answers your question.
Big shout out to DD for sending $100. Appreciate you coming on here.
That number is so big, I can't even define
Yeah.
what it is.
I tell you what,
Thank you very much, right?
That's great.
If we ever visit your house, coffee and donuts is on us.
That's right. Aaron wants to know the best head for a turbo small block Ford 306, AFR 165, or the awesome TFS 11R. What would you suggest in that situation?
Well, I know the
turbo
TFS 11R works gangbusters. The AF 165, I know that works, but I can't remember what it works best on. Right. Both of them are likely to work, but I'm leaning towards the TFS 11R.
Yeah, I would too, if it was me.
Ported RPM intake, I take it.
Doing a blow-through setup with,
Yeah.
or it may be a EFI deal.
Now, when you build this, watch for back pressure caused by the manifold. It will cause that 274 HR cam to functionally fail, right? It won't. That cam will work well with very low back pressure. It will be a rocket ship.
Yeah.
But if you've got cast manifolds that are causing a lot of back pressure, that's it. You'll kill 50 to 100 horsepower, no trouble.
Campbell Jenkins just want to say hi from Singapore.
Right.
It's pretty awesome stuff.
Now it's going to be first thing in the morning there.
Yeah.
Early riser.
So wait a minute.
Richard Holdner. Richard's got a thingy on there. Look. Quick. Up there on top of the page.
Aaron Lidl, how many times you going to ask that question? I feel like you're cheating on me. Apparently he's asked the same question.
Right.
That is pretty.
What's the question?
About the AFR or TFS heads.
It'd be interesting. Richard, what did you tell him? We'll wait for him to reply.
They're both going to work really well, but
what else have we got here? We're going to have to call it a night soon.
yeah.
Right.
We'll do it at what, 10 o'clock?
Yeah,
10 minutes.
I need my beauty sleep, right? Not that it's going to work.
Richard said they both work great, so you can take that to the bank. And he does lean, he says he leans towards the TFS heads too.
Where did he say that?
Right here.
Oh. So basically, Richard's already told you the same thing.
Yeah. But I think either one would work really good if you had both, or if you had
Richard is the hardest working dyno guy on the tube. Yep, I would not get with that. Right. But I bet I drink more cups of coffee in the day. Jack Sharp. David, have you ever worked with indie heads for Big Block Mopar? I think so. This would be before my brain surgery, right? All I can remember about indie heads was the guy I spoke to on the phone was an arrogant son of a bitch. So I wasn't inclined to deal with him anymore. It's funny. I remember that more than anything else.
Look at what Richard said. Richard said you've been doing it longer and it's smarter.
What's that? Richard, what are you answering?
Apparently someone was talking up here, but I think he might have been responding to your comment.
Oh, okay.
But I tell you what,
I can't
Richard,
remember that far back, Richard.
I tell you what, Richard, I'm actually amazed by your work and all the effort that you put into doing those dyno tests, because anybody who's done a dyno test, knows how much effort and time goes into setting up a dyno to do that kind of stuff.
It's
not something that happens in 10 minutes.
You've got to be some kind of workaholic,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
But yeah, Richard, I want to tell you, I was the one that was on your 2-valve video that telling you that was the one that made over 600 horsepower from a 2-valve, naturally aspirated, and I can thank this guy right here for helping me along the way.
There's a question there from the wrench.
The wrench. Okay, here we go, because John wanted me to ask this. Can compressor crutch a bad exhaust?
Yes. But here's what you have to do. You raise the compression and increase the exhaust duration.
Yeah.
Right? And you can get away with it.
So we got a lot of first time watching live, long time book collecting of yours. Cheers from Alaska.
I've never been to Alaska.
I would love to go.
Some of the mountains there, right? Hey, Lawrence, do they look as good in real life as they look in the photographs? I mean, there's some pretty spectacular views up there.
I would love to go.
Yeah, but one of my best friends went to Alaska on a cruise.
Yeah,
up in
an Alaskan cruise is awesome. My in-laws
yeah,
did
he just. I think he wore out his camera taking photographs. You know, bearing in mind it's a digital camera. That takes some doing.
Dr. Romack says, I hear those indie heads kick ass on a pro stocker with nitrous. Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Well, you know,
get into that whole nitrous.
Is a great Band-Aid fix.
Yeah, nitrous, the great nitrous controversy. Let's see here. Conto Vermoor. Does exhaust flow or charge velocity create a bigger pressure drop in the cylinder? It should be velocity because the velocity is squared in the formula for kinetic energy, right? What's your take?
Yeah. The velocity of the exhaust is very important. As is getting the exhaust velocity as even as possible across the area of the port. The more uneven it is, the more cammy the engine will feel, right? Because it will reverse flow on the slowest part. So that will be the governing thing, right? I designed a manifold deal which reduced reverse flow and sped the exhaust up a bunch. And I'm thinking what I should do is resurrect it and get it cast in stainless and say, hey, here's your headers. They join to this. Right, the beauty of it is the stainless steel flanges, they'll never leak. Right, you can crank those up, that's it. Anyway.
So we've been going at this for about an hour and a half.
Yeah. You
about ready to wrap it up?
I've been at work since just about 7 o'clock this morning, so I've now done 7, 8. Do you know what? I haven't had my breakfast yet.
You better eat.
Yeah.
I got to keep you around for at least 100 more years.
What is it? It's 10 o'clock, 7 till 10.
Yeah.
That's 13 hours.
Yeah. Long time.
At my age, it feels like forever.
So, guys, we just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for coming on here for both of our live chats.
Yep.
Both on my channel and David's, and it's been really fun. We always have fun doing these.
And thank you guys. Right. I've enjoyed this.
You know, and
this isn't work, is it, Anthony?
No. I just want to say this, that this is a small glimpse into my world of what I've got to experience with this man for the past 15 to 20 years. And it's just phenomenal, you know, and I don't take it for granted because I can listen to David talk for hours and hours and hours. of the experiences that he's done.
I didn't pay him all that much to say that.
But yeah, well, you can pay me later. But no, seriously, guys, I mean, he has taught me so much in my time coming around here, and I'll be forever indebted to him. But
oh, I just want to say one thing
What's
about our American viewers about Australia. Hey, if you ever get the chance to go to Australia, go. You absolutely will never regret it, right? I've spent quite a bit of time in Australia. I loved every second of it, right? Great people. Motor racing fanatics, right? So,
yeah,
hey, Dennis,
where's Dennis at?
there.
Where?
I didn't realize it was you asked that question. Yes. Right? Hopefully I answered it all right, but you're exactly right. It's the kinetic energy that is our in quotes supercharger.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so that's going to be it for tonight. Just thank y'all again, and you got any parting words, David? Tell them a little bit about the video that you got coming out on that small block head. Guys, look, I've been around here for a long time, but when I see something that really catches my eye and what you've got out of that old double hump head, I'm really shocked. So,
well,
tell them a little bit of insight about what you got coming.
What about 50 years of experience?
Well, I know you can't erase that. I mean, come on.
Some double hump castings, which unfortunately, although they've been ported sensibly, the porting that was done on them was conventional, and what I'm doing is not the same as everybody else. But we've managed to get from a relatively small port from these castings about what you'd get from an aluminum set of heads, right?
You know, and that's the thing.
It's 600 lift, and that's about what we're using on 266, was it?
Yeah.
Right?
It reminds me of the old 289 heads
Yeah.
that you got, what, 275 CFM out of them, or whatever it was? The old 289?
271.
Yeah, 271 CFM out of a 289 cast cylinder head from
And
1960s.
when it went in the car and on the track, it absolutely annihilated
It's
the
competition. Yeah.
Only problem is it cracked the block.
Yeah.
Too much horsepower.
You'll have that.
But the driver said to me, he said it was almost boring because he could pass anybody at will. You know, they could block him on the corner, come out the corner. He said it's just like I had a 75 horsepower nitrous kit, and I pushed the button and went straight past.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
So,
Well, you done, David?
yeah, I'm done. I'm done for, guys.
Good night, guys.
Thank you very much for watching.
And all of the donations.
And
it really means a lot.
Please, if you're not a subscriber to either of our channels, please subscribe. We need those numbers to attract people to give us parts to test. Or
David
even
Vizard
think about
Performance and Unity Motorsports Garage.
it. Yep.
Good night, y'all. Cheers.